She had told herself she would not cry. She had made that decision in the parking lot, sitting in a 2003 Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and a rosary hanging from the rearview mirror, and she had said it out loud to herself the way people say things they need to mean. Don't let them see you cry. Her name was Rosa Delgado. She was 71 years old, a widow of 4 years, and she was dressed in the careful, dignified way of a woman who understands that appearance is one of the last defenses available to a person who has very little else to bring into a room. Her blouse was white and pressed. Her shoes were polished. Her silver hair was pinned back with the precision of someone who had taken time over it, because the taking of time was itself a form of respect. And Rosa Delgado did not know how to show up somewhere important without showing respect. She walked into Courtroom 3 in Providence, Rhode Island, carrying a folder of documents against her chest and the very controlled, very deliberate composure of a woman who has promised herself something and intends to keep it. What she could not have known was that by the time she left this building, the promise would be the least remarkable thing that had happened to her in it. Judge Frank Caprio took the bench at 9:18 and looked, as he always looked first, at the people. Not the papers, and the people. He saw Rosa at the defendant's table, and he saw the folder, and he saw the white blouse and the polished shoes, and the particular quality of her stillness, which was not the stillness of calm, but the stillness of someone holding something together through sheer will, the way you hold a cracked thing carefully in both hands and carry it without breathing too hard. He had seen that kind of stillness before. He knew what it cost. Before we get to what's in that folder, and what's in that folder is going to unravel something in this courtroom that nobody is prepared for. If you have ever watched an elderly person try to navigate a system that was not designed with them in mind, and do it with a dignity that puts the system to shame, leave a comment below right now. Tell me who that person was to you. Because Rosa Delgado came to this courtroom alone, without an attorney, without anyone in the gallery to hold her hand, and what she carried in that folder is going to expose something that the people who built this case against her would very much prefer stayed buried. Subscribe and stay with me. This one does not end the way anyone in that room expected. The case, as presented by the city, was a parking enforcement matter with a complication. Rosa had accumulated 3 citations over 4 months. All of them issued on the same residential block, all of them on a street cleaning day, totaling $215. The complication was that she had appealed each citation individually. The appeals had been denied at the administrative level, and her repeated failure to resolve the fines had resulted in a late penalty that pushed the total to $340 and triggered a license suspension flag. The city's representative, a man named Porter, who delivered his summary with the flat efficiency of someone processing a queue, noted that the matter had been outstanding for 11 months and recommended immediate payment or a structured plan. Rosa opened her folder. She did it slowly, with arthritic hands that required a moment, and nobody in the room rushed her. She removed 3 sheets of paper and placed them in a neat row on the table in front of her. She had organized them by date. "Your Honor," she said, and her voice was steady, clear, and careful in the way of a person who has rehearsed, "I would like to show you something." The judge nodded. Each citation, she explained, had been issued on a Tuesday, street cleaning day. The signs on her block indicated that parking was prohibited on Tuesdays between 7 and 9 in the morning. She understood this. She had never disputed it. What she was disputing was not the rule, but the physical impossibility of complying with it on those specific mornings. And to explain why, she placed a 4th document on the table, a letter from Rhode Island Hospital, printed on official stationery, listing the dates of her chemotherapy appointments. All 3 citations had been issued on Tuesday mornings, when Rosa Delgado was inside Rhode Island Hospital, receiving treatment for stage 2 breast cancer. The courtroom went silent. Not the brief transitional silence of proceedings. The full breath-held silence of a room that has just understood something completely and simultaneously and is sitting inside the understanding with nowhere to put it. Porter, the city's representative, had stopped writing. Judge Caprio looked at the letter. He looked at the citations. He looked at Rosa, who was looking back at him with eyes that were doing exactly what she had promised herself they would not do, filling, slowly, against her will, with the particular tears of a woman who has held it together for a very long time and is finding that some rooms are harder to hold it in than others. She pressed her lips together. She looked at the ceiling. She was not going to let them see her cry. That's when everything changed. Because from the second row of the gallery, which had been occupied by a man Rosa had not looked at and did not know, a man in a city building inspector's jacket who had come in for a zoning matter scheduled for later that morning, a voice said quietly but audibly, "Oh, come on. You've got to be kidding me." It was not directed at Rosa. It was the involuntary response of a person whose basic sense of decency had been exceeded, and it spoke for every person in that room. Judge Caprio did not look at the gallery. He looked at the documents. He read the hospital letter with the methodical attention of a judge who needs to know exactly what he is looking at before he says what he is going to say. Then he looked up, and when he spoke, it was not with the voice of a man managing a caseload. It was with the voice of a man who has decided that what is about to come out of his mouth is the most important thing said in this room today and possibly this week. "Ms. Delgado," he said, "I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You received these 3 citations on the mornings of your chemotherapy treatments. You were not available to move your car because you were inside a hospital receiving cancer treatment. You appealed all 3 citations. Those appeals were denied. You have been carrying a suspended license flag and a $340 debt for 11 months while managing your illness, and you came here today, alone, to explain that to this court." "Yes, Your Honor." "Did anyone at the administrative level ask you why you hadn't moved the car?" A small pause. "No, sir." The judge looked at Porter. Porter looked at his notes in the way of someone who would prefer to be somewhere else. "Mr. Porter," the judge said, with a quietness that made the name land harder than a shout, "this woman's appeals were denied. Were the hospital letters submitted with those appeals?" I would have to check the file, Your Honor." "Please check." The pause that followed was not long. "It was long enough. The letters appear to have been submitted, Your Honor." "They were submitted." The judge did not raise his voice. He lowered it, which was more effective. She told the appeals process, in writing, with official medical documentation, that she had been receiving chemotherapy, and the appeals were denied. Porter did not answer. The answer was self-evident, and everyone in the room knew it. Judge Caprio folded his hands on the bench and looked at Rosa Delgado, at the white blouse, at the organized documents, at the hands that had sorted them carefully despite the arthritis, at the eyes that were still doing battle with themselves, and he delivered the words that were screenshotted and shared 200,000 times in the 48 hours following the broadcast of this hearing. "The system failed you. Not once, 3 times in an appeal. This court cannot give you back 11 months of worry. But it can tell you, clearly and for the record, that you did nothing wrong. Not one single thing." Rosa Delgado did let them see her cry. She had not planned to. But the thing about a room where someone finally says the true thing out loud is that promises made in parking lots don't always survive it. She cried the way people cry when they have been holding something very heavy for a very long time, and someone has just, without being asked, taken it from their hands. Quietly, completely, without apology. The ruling was total, all 3 citations dismissed, all penalties removed, the license suspension flag cleared with immediate effect, and a formal written referral issued by the judge to the city's administrative appeals office requiring a review of how medical documentation submitted in appeals was being processed, or, as the referral stated without diplomatic softening, not processed. Rosa drove home in the 2003 Honda Civic. The rosary was still hanging from the mirror. She called her daughter from the parking lot, and when her daughter answered and asked how it went, Rosa was quiet for a moment and then said, "He told me I didn't do anything wrong." Her daughter asked her to say it again. She did. They were on the phone for a long time after that. 3 months after the hearing, the city's appeals office implemented a new flagging protocol requiring human review of any appeal containing medical documentation. It was a policy change. It was also, in a building full of process and procedure, a small and consequential act of remembering that the people inside the process are people. Rosa Delgado completed her treatment in the spring. She sent a card to the courthouse. It was a simple card. Flowers on the front, 3 sentences inside, signed with her full name and the date of her hearing, as though she wanted the record to know she remembered it. The clerk read it and passed it to the judge. He kept it. If roses whisper in the parking lot, don't let them see you cry. Reach something in you that you've been carrying quietly for a while. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you promised yourself before the last hard room you had to walk into. Like this video if you believe that the person who shows up alone, with organized paperwork and polished shoes and a folder held against her chest, deserves a system that actually reads what she submits. Subscribe because every week there is a Rosa Delgado standing in a parking lot making a promise to herself before walking into a building that should have done better. And every week we are here to make sure the story gets told. Share this one with someone who needs to hear that doing everything right still counts, even when the system doesn't notice. Even when no one notices. It still counts. Don't let them see you cry. But if they do, let it be because someone finally told you the truth.